So some of you have probably seen some of these clips from my last video that I made. They're absolutely beautiful cabbages that I harvested out of our garden. So today I am going to be making some sauerkraut out of some of these cabbages. So I am going to remove the outer leaves of these cabbages after I've already washed them. Then I'm going to be cutting out the core of these cabbages and discarding them. Now I'm going to be keeping some of these leaves that I reserved on the side over here to later use to hold down my brine. Look how pretty this cabbage is right here. So I'm just going to cut it up. I know some people like to shred them in a shredder, but I'm just going to finely chop this up as best as I can and just chop up the big chunks that I see. This is probably something that you need to play around with if you like the texture of a really fine shredded cabbage, or if you kind of like it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to take 3 heads of cabbage from our garden, and I'm just going to continue to chop every one of those up really well. And I'm going to put them into a big silver bowl. And I didn't film this part, but after I added all of this cabbage in this silver bowl, I sprinkled it with fine sea salt, and I just let it sit while I cleaned up my area to move on to the next thing that I was getting ready to start. So after getting everything cut up here in this bowl, I will be using some of this at the very end of this video, but some of this I will be giving to the pigs. So here I already have my salt in the bowl, and I'm going to be using my KitchenAid mixer. I find that using this KitchenAid mixer is so much better on your hands. So I just let this mix for quite a few minutes until I start seeing some liquid forming in the bottom. And I just work in small batches because these are 3 heads of cabbage that I'm working with here. Luckily I have 2 mixing bowls for my KitchenAid mixer. So you see here I'm switching out, working through these cabbages. So after all of this, I'm just going to put it right back into this big silver bowl and give it a really good mix once it's all done. And then I will start packing it into my half-gallon size mason jar. So I just take my time here really. I do a few scoops at a time. Then I'll take my rubber spatula and kind of just press the cabbage down as hard as I can. So I ended up actually getting all 3 of these cabbages into this half-gallon size jar, which is really crazy, but the cabbages that I used were kind of on the small side. So eventually you're going to start seeing some liquid form inside this jar. Here in a little while you'll see the liquid start coming up from the bottom, and then there's going to be some liquid inside this silver bowl that I'm going to pour into this jar. So talking about the benefits of eating sauerkraut, honestly eating sauerkraut is really not my favorite thing, but after I started having kids I had really bad gut issues for a really long time, and nowadays I'm just focusing on my gut health and eating whole foods. So sauerkraut is very nutritious. It has fiber, vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. And some of them actually contain some really good health benefits for your gut, digestion, heart health, bone health, and brain health. So eating like whole foods and stuff and fermented foods are very healthy for your gut. And I actually been really focusing on that the past couple of years, and I can truly say that my gut has definitely changed for the good. And I'm really happy because I used to struggle with a lot of gut health problems. So that's been my main focus these past couple of years, growing the garden that we have here. When you really truly understand what you're eating can really affect how your body reacts to what you're eating. I still have some cabbages out in the garden that I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. So once I got all of this packed in here, I took a reserved cabbage leaf that I had in my scrap pile and I folded it up and pressed it all the way down into the brine. You want to make sure that all of the cabbage and the leaf and everything is below the liquid level. That way there's no mold forming in the time that it's going to be fermenting. And then I took my spring here and I'm going to continue to press down and put my lid on. Now this is a fermenting lid. This will release the gas bubbles through this hole up here so it won't explode or anything. So I'm going to set this on the counter for 7 days to 3 weeks, and I'm going to do a taste test in between there, and then it will last up to 4 to 6 months in the refrigerator after it's all fermented. So I came back out to the garden where the cabbage row is. So I mentioned in my last video that I grew 2 different variety of cabbages this year. So the shorter day variety is what I harvested already. So these 2 right here didn't truly make it. But look here, my last video, this one wasn't as big and I left it for about a couple more days. So I'm going to be harvesting this one tonight. So all of these actually will be ripped out tonight because I know these will not form into a cabbage. This one's actually starting to bolt a little bit because it's getting hot. So this whole entire variety that I had right here is going to be completely gone tonight. But down here I mentioned that this variety was actually a longer day cabbage. So I have on my calendar that I should be harvesting these in a week. Our spring kind of went from spring weather straight to summer, and that's usually where I live. That's always the case. We always jump right into hot weather, 90-degree weather. So you guys are probably wondering what varieties that I grew this year. So my shorter day variety is Copenhagen market cabbage. It's a 66 day to harvest, and it's probably one of the most popular ones on the market for its flavor and crispiness and sweetness, and it can actually last up into storage for up to 6 months. So it's a really good variety to try. We are in zone 6B, so it's a perfect cabbage to use if you're in a shorter spring or a shorter fall climate. They're also supposed to be crack resistant and 3 to 4 pounds each. So honestly, I really like that variety. It's super resistant to a lot of things. I didn't have any trouble with it splitting, and it grew really well. And it's 66 days to harvest, so I love that. This one right here is called All Seasons Cabbage. So I was actually reading up on this variety, and it's actually a heat tolerant cabbage. So I shouldn't have too much problems with this cabbage, and it actually is a mid-season cabbage. That's why it's a longer variety. It takes forever for it to mature. And they can get up to 10 to 15 pounds each. And these are actually known for making sauerkraut. It's also good for fresh eating and roasting. So these actually are heat tolerant, and I won't have to really worry about this because I thought they were starting to look like they're bolting, but they're supposed to be heat resistant. Super proud of all of my cabbages this year, and won't be long. I will be replanting all of this in a month or 2 and starting my fall season. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm so glad you're here, and we will see you guys next week.